Hello, and welcome to the Brick and Mortar Detroit podcast, where we discuss business, real estate, lifestyle, and travel. I'm your host, Eric Andrews, founder and owner of Brick and Mortar Detroit Real Estate Brokerage, 16 years in the industry, experience in multiple full scale renovations, high end luxury property management, customer service relations, new construction, previous director of 55 West Campfield Lofts, 2016 certified apartment manager, and Airbnb superhost. I started this podcast for boots on the ground insights in Detroit from not just one, but as many professionals that I could find. Today's guest is Marcus Twyman with Opulent Realty. We'll let Marcus tell us a little bit more about himself. Hi, Marcus. How are you?
I'm good. Good afternoon, Eric.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
Awesome.
Hope all is well with you and you're enjoying the holiday.
It's going okay, got a little COVID in here, so just
all right. Well, you keep that on your side of the screen. That's why we're doing these Zooms now. Huh?
Thank God for Zoom, because
right.
It's not gonna happen.
Well, I'm gonna jump right into it. My name is Marcus Twyman. I'm with Opulent Realty Team. I am the broker owner. We specialize in real estate sales as property management. We have 3 offices located here in Metro Detroit, Redford, Michigan, New Center, Detroit, and on the east side of Detroit in East English Village. We are soon opening up in 2022, our Atlanta office in Sandy Springs, Georgia. So we are expanding pretty soon. So just a sneak peek, I'm going to try to get also into Florida as well, specifically the Orlando, Tampa area and the Fort Lauderdale, Miami area. So we are full service when it comes to property management. Full service usually entails we'll collect the rent, we'll take them to court, we'll do whatever it is that you need us to get done, or we do offer a la carte services. Some owners just want us to collect the rent for them or just be a service advisor for them. So whatever services you need, we can always customize them.
Awesome. And how long have you been in the industry?
I've been in the industry for about 16 years as well. Started off in banking finance, worked in multiple banks here in the Metro Detroit area, moved over into mortgages crashed, came over to the realtor side. I was jumping through windows, selling $5,000 houses like candy. It was the best thing then because the bank paid us our commission. So I could get paid up to $2,000 on a $5,000 house. That's another discussion that we can have.
That's not bad.
Right. Moved from the realtor side to the broker side of real estate. It was actually a dare. I did not have any plans to become a broker. It was during a time where one of my close friends, he wanted to be a real estate broker so bad. And he was just like, well, you should do it too. I said, well, why would I do it? I love being a realtor, do my job, go home and be done. So he said, you know what? I dare you to do it. Had some downtime, went ahead, took the class, passed the test, and held on to an associate broker's license with my previous broker years ago for several years until I decided to actually branch it on my own. So, but I actually enjoy it. I'm glad that I got it, and I do look forward to other designations soon as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you. So tell me a little bit about the last year during the pandemic. What have you been doing? Has it kind of changed your niche, or has it changed how you've had to address or approach the real estate industry? Tell us a little bit more about your experience over the last 12 months.
Well, the real estate industry is an always changing environment. I've seen the change go up, go down, and everything else. But in the last year, yes. I started off in this industry as a buyer's agent. I love working with first-time home buyers. I still do, but now I've gotten into the role more of property management.
Gotcha.
Again, it kind of fell in my lap. Clients I was selling homes to, investors specifically, I was selling homes to, were having a hard time finding people who they could trust in order to manage the properties while they're away. In the last year, property management has definitely increased because the lack of movement due to COVID.
People have
Most owners could have hopped on a plane and got here soon or done a lot of different things differently as far as being hands-on, but due to their schedules, lack of financing, et cetera, I mean, they were not able to make it. So property management has definitely been one of the biggest things that has been needed and sought after. So property management in the last year has definitely been my new niche in this market.
Beautiful. So overall, let's see here. what would you say you find to be the most difficult part about, we're going to break this probably into two questions, property management in Detroit? What do you find to be the most difficult part of property management, specifically in Detroit?
The most difficult, and you would think I would say the tenants, is not the tenants.
Mm,
It's somewhat of some of the owners that you run across.
mm,
A lot of people are still in the same mindset that Detroit is this downtrodden, trashed out market.
mm,
Okay. At one point it was, but it is no longer that.
mm, mhm,
Um, and with me, I work closely with the city of Detroit and other agencies within the city of Detroit that have to provide adequate housing. So the answer to that question is working with some of the owners because they still have the mentality that, well, I'm just going to make it livable. Okay.
mhm,
But the term livable is subjective. So at the end of the day, I have to make sure that I set standards
mm,
and set requirements for these owners. And that's
mm,
kind of been the difficult part. On top of, some people consider property management to be almost like a piggy bank for them. This is a 5 to 7 year plan.
mm,
You do have an asset, but it is also one that you have to maintain. So yes, you will receive owner draws and make payments for the money that's there, but you also have to do repairs and pay your property manager. So at the
okay.
end of the day, like I said, the owners are the ones I have the most communication with because I'm like, hey, I'm not a piggy bank and we're not going to release all of this money. And now you have repairs that are required to get done for a property.
Mm,
So again, working with the owners. And I understand everybody's in a financial pinch. They probably bought either during the pandemic or before the pandemic, and now they are really relying on these funds to come through. But
mm,
also, you have a responsibility as an owner to make sure that you are providing safe and adequate housing. And also, the difficult part with the owners is explaining to them this process as far as when it comes to still providing adequate and habitable housing and safe housing for
mm,
tenants who are severely delinquent.
mm.
Um,
Exactly.
because
Sticking
again,
with it.
they're like, well, where am I supposed to get the money from if they are not paying?
Mm.
Well, at the end of the day,
It's a
everybody
responsibility.
looks at the investor and they say, you're the investor, you got to figure it out. So,
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, and that definitely is a hard part is sometimes, and I kind of discussed this in one of the previous episodes, is sometimes you might get scammed or you might not get paid or whatever it may be. And sometimes you kind of get left holding the bag, but you're still
yeah,
responsible for the property as far as the city's concerned, as far as the tenant's concerned, as far as the law is concerned.
correct.
And that's something to know and be very careful about. Sometimes people are going for the price point or going for particular items that tends to kind of leave you in I don't know, a place where you can be vulnerable to
Correct.
certain threats. We'll call it that. So,
You know, and just kind of backtrack a little bit.
sure.
I'm a broker owner. I also an investor myself.
Mm,
Um, Educator. My biggest role is education,
you're good at
real
it.
estate education.
Absolutely.
My team and I, we go out on the road and we talk to investors and educate investors on how to invest in the city of Detroit.
Mm,
Basically, we're myth busters.
mm,
I call us myth busters.
mm, mm.
And I say this because we have to correct all the incorrect information that people have received
Mm,
off of various platforms.
mm.
Okay. Um, a lot of times we always say we kind of might even talk people out of investing completely because they feel
Sometimes.
like it's not for them. But I would rather for people to have the information, the correct information, than not have it.
Exactly.
Because in this industry, going back to the owners and why it can also be so difficult is that we as property managers may not be the person that sold them the actual property.
Mm,
So now we have to clean up and correct someone else's um, I'm not gonna say mistake, but lack thereof telling
lack,
them the truth.
yes, yes, just
Okay.
kind of doing that.
So they told them a story in order to get them to buy this house so that they could have a sale. And
Exactly.
that's all they were looking for was a sale.
Exactly.
So once I get in and I actually piece together information that they give me, I found out it's more to the story when it comes to tenants, tenant ledgers, payments, occupancy, etc. So I now have to turn around and become that, I guess, moment of truth or bad guy and tell
Yes.
them, hey, this is not what it appears to be.
Mm, mm,
So with that being said, as an educator, I go out and I tell people exactly what it is they need to know when it comes to city certification, repairs, lead clearances, everything.
Yes.
Before they even put a dime into the property. Before we even make an offer, we're looking at this property to see how long the actual turnaround time will be and what the actual cost will be to cure this property.
Right.
Yeah, if it's vacant or if it's currently tenant occupied. And most of these owners don't know. You have to have it's required to have a lead inspection completed for your rental property.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be very costly, especially if it's an older home that has not been paid in several years.
Which most of them
Um,
are.
which most of them are. And at the end of the day, if there's tenant occupied, you have to put these people in temporary housing while it's getting done. So not only do you have to pay to have a lead abatement completed, well, first, let's say the inspection completed, then the abatement completed, then also relocate a family that lives in a home that you own. That's quite a bit of money.
It's a lot of costs,
It is a lot of
especially
cost.
sometimes the margins and the parameters just are not there for you,
Absolutely.
or they're this thin, and now you've got all these other things that you have to do, and you slide backwards. It's very easy to
Absolutely.
do.
And
So,
so sometimes I mean, I definitely feel like I help people to avoid that. There
mhm,
are properties out here that fit the criteria. Now, the issue that I'm also finding is that those properties are at retail price because the work has been done for you. And
mhm.
most people are like, no, I want to buy it and do it over time. You're going to spend the money. You're going to spend the money either way, either now or later.
And the longer you wait,
Honestly, if you
probably
do
more.
it, if you just pay the price now, you'll
Yes,
see the reward
yes,
sooner.
yes. Totally agree
See
with
the
that.
reward sooner. So again, you're buying this property for $30,000. It's going to need about another 30. You may go ahead
Mhm,
and find something for 72, 75.
mhm.
The work has already been completed.
Time to
And
start
then
making money, right?
correct, start making money. Start
Exactly.
making money.
Exactly. And that's like a really big thing. And I think the education is a big part because you and I were both Detroiters. I've known you actually for a really long time. And part of this is what I call my community service, this podcast and just putting the word out there and the information. I haven't really found a lot like that where people can just kind of come and listen to people who know what they're talking about and their niche, not like, oh, all these different people giving you general facts of information. And oftentimes it's really just starting with the information, being honest, and letting some people know this is not for you. At the end of the day, you're right. If you're looking at a particular price point in the city, you're getting exactly what you pay for. If it's a low price, it's probably because of location. It's
Correct.
probably because there's going to be theft that you have to deal with while you're trying to renovate the property. You put the new hot water tank in, all these different things, or even if you want to flip it, there are little issues that you may have in the meantime. So getting with a realtor who knows the area, who can kind of guide you on, better areas. No one can give you a very, a guarantee, but
Correct.
education is everything. And there are a lot of people who want to come to Detroit and slum landlord it, right? And just kind of like buy something. And, the people used to be able to do that pretty well back in the day, but it's not really
Yeah.
flying so much anymore.
No.
And now they're, kind of just losing money and just disgruntled the whole time. And so I was just saying in the past that I'm a selective property manager. I don't really enjoy property management overall, simply because it can just kind of get weird and touchy. And then something that you're dealing with every day, especially when a problem comes that you're trying to mitigate, but the person is in the property, right? Like when
Correct.
you defer maintenance and do all this different stuff and the house starts falling apart or a leak is going on or something that you can't just stop immediately, it creates all types of other problems. Finding short-term housing, finding housing for
Yes.
your people to go into is also a problem. Like COVID has affected everything. And so maybe a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, you could have spent $30,000 for a house, right?
Mhm.
And then maybe put 30 into it. But that 30 that you're going to put into it now, just because of COVID, because of contractors, because of shortages, and the fact that they just can up the price, you're going to pay maybe closer to 50, 60. It's almost double, it seems at times or whatever. And so, like, just get it right the first time, get someone in who you trust, and then rent the property to them rather than, oh, I'm going to cut corners. And like, no,
Correct.
how many times is your
Correct.
house going to be broken into in that mean in the short time and costing you money and time and boarding it up or whatever it may be? It's just, don't do it. Personally,
Correct.
don't do it. But okay, awesome. Moving on. So what about the other areas that you manage? What other areas do you manage in the city, or rather in the state?
Well, particularly, I try to stay in the Metro Detroit area.
Me too.
Not all the way north, Traverse City, and everything else.
Mm,
We do have a couple in Saginaw, but literally it's a couple of properties. So, and they're pretty hands off. So we may
mm,
only go up twice a month if we need to.
Awesome.
But long story short, it's mostly Metro Detroit, and we are very selective.
Mhm.
And I say we because I discussed this with my team and myself. We're very selective about what properties we take on. We're very selective about what owners we take on. The name of my company is Opulent, which means wealth. We're trying to build wealth. And at the end of the day, I enjoy what I do. I've always enjoyed what I've done, and I will not allow anyone to take that joy away from me. So if you want to be an argumentative, disgruntled owner, I am more than happy to dismiss you.
Mhm.
It just in my contract is that I can give you a 30-day notice, or you give me one. And even if you give me one, I don't have an issue with it because I understand that you have to build a relationship that is right for you. It's all
Exactly.
about relationships.
It is.
But mostly we're doing the Metro Detroit area, um, Wayne, Oakland, and Macomb County.
Mhm.
I'm not usually going any further than that.
And of those areas, do you find one to be a little bit easier to deal with, or I guess kind of get set up?
Actually, believe it or not, the city is easier to deal with.
I believe
The
that.
city of Detroit.
It's probably less
Um,
restrictions in some ways.
I mean, I'm not gonna say less restrictions. I'm just gonna say they understand that we're in a pandemic, number one, and number two, they are they're all working together so that we can
Rebuild.
achieve the goal of having safe and habitable housing.
Mm,
Because they don't want to deal with the issues that are in
mm,
court
mm.
and or people getting hurt or children, especially getting lead poisoning and getting hurt in unsafe properties.
Exactly.
So they work with you. I think a lot of people also had a bad connotation of the city of Detroit, thinking they were out to get you and
Mm,
that they were not going to work with you. That's not true. I mean, I have great relationships with the inspectors that
mm,
go out and they let us know what we can do or what we need to do in order for this
mhm.
to pass.
Exactly.
So, but some of the others in other counties are not so helpful. We're constantly bumping heads, and it's just not a
It's
great
different. It's a very different experience when
it
you go to
is.
other
I mean, I
places.
think it kind of feels like something where they don't want to have rental properties and tenants.
Mhm,
So they try to make it harder for owners and property managers and others to
mhm,
rent the property,
mhm.
and have some outrageous requirements when it comes to the safety and habitability of a property that don't really resonate. When I say that, it's, for example, I mean, it's a crown molding on a garage for a house that we not even say crown molding, it was a piece of molding, literally of like a
Fascia.
what, no, it was just a piece like just right on the side of the garage, and you
Okay.
failed an inspection for that. It had to be like a $2 piece
It's touchy.
of wood, so it was just like that's not anything safety or hazardous,
Mm,
or
mm.
that's just something cosmetic. You want it to look a certain way, and it's not your home, so
Uh,
what difference does it make to you? But long story short is, yeah, the city is a whole lot easier
I agree.
to me than a lot of
I
suburban
agree.
areas. Um, Also, what I find in the suburban areas is that these houses were poorly constructed.
Mm,
Um,
yes, that
a
is
lot of people
so
don't realize
true.
that Detroit has the most brick homes and was original in this area. So
Mm,
at the end of the day, the structure of them are a little bit more. And when people start to, in the past years, leave the city, they built um,
what up?
homes in these suburban areas that are stick
Mhm.
built.
Exactly.
And with stick built is all wood. They did not insulate sometimes. A lot of them did not need actual construction permits. I mean, these were
Mm,
people who left and they literally built these houses with their bare hands, you know.
mm.
So they might have turned into a shack and then they were able to refinance it in the 80s, 90s, and etc. and add on to it. But long story short, I find a lot of them have mold and mildew issues.
Yep.
A
Yep.
lot of mold, there's a lot of drywall, and it doesn't take much. And they did not use the correct materials at that time. So it was just regular drywall. And as soon as drywall gets wet and you don't
Oh,
cure it soon, it molds.
especially
So
not green board. I mean, if it's not green board, especially.
correct. And most of it is not
Of
green
course
board.
not. Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course.
So bathrooms, kitchens, basements,
Mm,
sometimes a house in general, if it has a leak, may have a lot of
mhm.
mold issues. So that's what I
Yes.
find in suburban areas.
Yes. And so if you're an investor, we definitely highly recommend an inspection prior. You do not
Oh,
want to get caught up with that later, thinking you're about to jump into some money. No, inspections every time, every time. So
Absolutely.
absolutely. So, all right. So, considering the pandemic and how everything has changed, you seem to kind of have taken a little bit of a, let's say, a step left to mobile homes.
Ooh, yes. So I've always been into a lot of things.
Yes, also true.
But I know you know that offhand.
I do.
But
I
yes,
do.
in this pandemic, I was introduced to mobile homes.
Mhm.
Um, I follow a group on Instagram called Mobile Home Elite, and Mobile Home Elite,
Mm.
we're talking about, hey, you can invest in mobile homes for no money down, low money down. And you're like, okay, anytime I hear no money down, I'm like, ugh, okay, you really don't need no money down. Like everything takes money. But
Absolutely.
long story short is it started there. My team and I built a relationship with them.
Mm.
Specifically, people on my team already have relationships with them, and they created an ebook.
Mm.
But from there, the relationships build. We all in the same kind of real estate market,
Mm.
Midwest. I learned that it was a low cost to get into. Um, I had a mentor, friend, who was like, "Hey, I have a mobile home, and we planned on living in it, but we actually bought another one. Do you want ours?" And I'm just like, "Sure, I want to go see it." I'm like, "Sure, why not? How much do you want for it?"
Right.
At the time when I bought it was probably like 2 years ago. It
Mm.
was like, hey, give us $1,500 for it. I'm like, it must be a piece of crap. You know what I'm saying? Like, $1,500? Are you serious? So anyway, I'm like, yeah, I went ahead and took it for the 1,500. Mine specifically is in Macomb, Michigan, which is a very affluent area.
Mm.
And as I kept mine and studied with Mobile Home Elite and my team, I learned that they're very desirable as far as home ownership.
Mm.
So, for instance, there are some people that come into money.
Mm.
It may not be a lot to afford to buy a single family home in
Mm.
Metro Detroit, but it's enough for them to create and own a space of their own.
Mm. Mm.
So, my prime example, I bought it for $1,500. I own that mobile home
Awesome.
free and clear.
Awesome.
It is a space that is habitable.
Mm.
Cosmetically, is it ugly? Absolutely, to me. But I mean, for someone else, it may be
Yeah, and it's a
the
roof
best
over
thing
your
since
head.
sliced bread.
Exactly.
But for $1,500, I own something.
Exactly. People pay
I
that in
can
rent.
take that mobile home wherever, whatever park I want to put it in.
Mm.
The only thing that I'm responsible for is paying the lot rent, which is the land that it sits on.
Okay.
And that price varies depending upon what mobile home park you're in.
Gotcha. Could you give us maybe like it doesn't really matter, like a range on what a person might be looking at as far as lot rental fees?
Well, it depends on what county
Okay.
and what city.
Okay.
So I'll put it to you like this. It can range maybe $350 a month all the way up
Mm.
to $900 a month.
Okay. Gotcha.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Um, Specifically mine in Macomb is about $500 a month.
Okay.
But the value of the mobile homes that are in that park now
Mm-hmm.
are at 60 plus $1,000.
Gotcha. Mm.
So, and that's just in a 2 year span.
Mm-hmm.
So if I want to take that $1,500 mobile home that I purchased and take it somewhere else because the lot rent is too much for it, I can.
Mm.
If I want to buy a new mobile home and sell them my old one, I can. So
Mm.
I mean, it gives you, it's kind of like you're building a home without actually building one.
Mm.
Okay, so $1,500. Let's say they give me $5,000 for my current one to put down towards one that's maybe $30,000. Now I have one that I bought for 30 that sits
Mm.
on land and lot rent that
Mm.
can give me a value of almost $60,000.
Mm. Very
Now,
nice.
when I say about cash in, cash out, or easy, or even when they say no money down, there's people who unfortunately in the pandemic lost their mobile homes,
Mm.
or just sold them at a low price because they could not afford the lot rent.
Mm. Yeah.
So it is a possibility you could have taken over somebody else's payments for it. I mean, I still don't consider that no money down because eventually you have to pay, but you got the mobile home for free, but you had to pay the lot rent.
Right.
or you have to pay them a fee to move out or something like that. But it's a very untouched market. And I think it's also because of the stigma that's behind it through everything. We grow up thinking mobile homes are, not so great. The jokes are you live in a mobile home park
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
your mobile home, but
Trailer park or whatever.
yeah, trailer park.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, these people own their homes. They're
Yeah.
homeowners.
Yeah.
Homeowners.
And that's something that we also have to start talking about is, at the end of the day, renting is cool. And I'm not going to say anything negative about it,
Oh,
but, owning something, or at least, especially if you actually own it, you paid it off, it's yours,
correct.
is such a benefit, and you can kind of choose and do a long-term plan and figure out how to save your money and build a life around that propels you forward. Where sometimes renting, I don't really feel does the same thing. You might get a nice aesthetic or a nice apartment, a nice environment, or it might work for you.
Yes.
But oftentimes, especially as rents continue to
Oh,
go up
yes,
and
they
things like
do.
that, it kind of sometimes stifles your ability to get into a good position. House prices are still going up. So you kind of end up in the middle. And I guess sometimes for some people, you can make a lateral move or whatever. But I love the idea of owning something, anything, so a mobile park, and especially for a lot of us millennials,
Yes.
because we're poor. I don't know
Yes,
if
we are.
you guys know or not, but for a lot of us millennials, it gives you another option. The market was so competitive last year, and I had so many agents and brokers and myself that I would, talk to, and they're just like, we can't find anything that's affordable. Or people coming from California, New York, where they're DC, where they're used to things being incredibly expensive. Oh, they're buying things at $50,000 more
Mhm.
than what they're even asking, and everybody's locally, especially us who are just getting into the market, trying to get out of our parents' house or whatever it may be, can't even compete. So
Correct.
I could see it. I
But
saw on
that's
Instagram.
again, that's where mobile homes come in because now you can. I
Exactly.
mean, so for instance, if you're doing a conventional mortgage at $100,000 and with 5% down, that's 5 grand.
Mm-hmm.
If you have 5 grand, you could buy a decent mobile home for $5,000 in the Metro Detroit area.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm saying is that you'll own something, which I'm sorry, you'll own your home and then you'll just pay your lot rent.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that'll give you the independence that you need and the leverage.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because at the end of the day, like I said, you can sell that mobile home. If you want another mobile home that's better than the one you bought for 5 grand, you can sell it.
Mm-hmm.
Put down on a more updated new mobile home. It's
Mm-hmm.
just so many different things that you can do to put yourself in the market.
Right.
Say,
Right.
for instance, you just say, I'm going to wait 2 years for it maybe to come down or for it to stabilize,
Mm-hmm.
but you have your own place. It's not an apartment,
To figure it out.
to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I have nothing against renting. I tell some people it depends on your lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
For the past 6 years, I've been in licensed in the state of Georgia. I have not bought not one property there of my own.
Mm-hmm.
I've rented apartments because
Mm-hmm.
again, it did not make sense for
Exactly.
me. I didn't stay enough or long enough for me to actually own a property. So I rented an apartment. First of all, I wanted to live in different areas. To the state of Georgia is huge.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to experience the different areas. The only way for me to do that was to be in a lease.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm
Yeah.
glad that I was in a lease because look what happened in the pandemic.
Flexibility, right?
I mean,
Yeah.
the pandemic happened in March of 2020, and
Right.
my lease had just ended in March of 2020.
Exactly. Exactly.
So at the end of the day, what I'm saying is it depends upon your lifestyle and what's
Yes.
best for you. But if you want to be a homeowner, and you want to have something of your own, mobile homes are is a way that something that you can look into. Okay,
Exactly.
that's one of many options that you can
Mm.
look into
Mm.
instead of having a regular brick and mortar single family home.
Exactly. Yep. I
Yeah.
totally agree with that. I used to tell a lot of my clients who had rented for a long time and things of that nature, it really is. It's up to you as far as what you want to do. Hold on. I'm going on my camera. All right. It's up to you as far as what you want to do, but leases tend to offer a flexibility that, moving out of a house or selling a house or whatever it may be does not offer to you. And so for a lot of my traveling nurses or people who are in the
Mhm.
military or my engineers or people who are there on a short-term work visa or whatever it may be, it was great for them to have a lease. Nobody wanted to buy a house,
Correct.
so that was definitely something.
Oh,
And then, oh, go ahead.
I'm just saying, going back to just what you just said, I mean, Now you have an investment property. I mean, you can lease your space. You can Airbnb a mobile home, depending upon you can. Well, I'm not even say depending. I'm gonna take that word out. I'm gonna say you can Airbnb a mobile home. A mobile home park has 2 pools, a fitness center, 4 playgrounds. I mean, it is beautiful out there.
Yeah.
And it's close to Suffrage Air Force Base. So at the end of the day, if I chose to Airbnb it, right now we kind of use it as our getaway spot, to get out the city. We live in the city. So we want to go out and we want to do something different. We go out there.
Yes. And like the beauty of is what I saw a lot of people doing during the pandemic, a lot of younger people, and they were more so with RVs and rebuilding these RVs and just taking them on the road and seeing, the stateside and everything like that. So mobile homes are not normally on wheels, or they're never on home. They're never on wheels. They're always just kind of placed down
they're affixed to the land.
Okay.
So your utilities are connected, your gas is connected, your lights are connected to the actual mobile home.
Okay.
It is not affixed where it has a basement or a slab.
Gotcha.
It still sits on a platform, but the wheels are off and a skirt is placed around it. But at the end of the day, if you need to move it, you would have to hire a company that has a truck that'll slide the trailer up under it, pick it up, and take it out of there. Of course, you have to have all the utilities disconnected prior to doing that. At the end of the day, yes, it's pretty much affixed. It's affixed to the land.
Gotcha. So then that brings me to shipping containers. Do you know, I know we talked a little bit about it. I know it's kind of something that's still new to you, but it's still kind of a growing trend. And one of my next things would be like 3D printing, but shipping containers seems to be like a predecessor to that. What are your thoughts on shipping containers?
First of all, I had the opportunity to visit Container Home USA out in Cleveland, Ohio. Only Black-owned container home company in, I want to say, the world. They've won numerous awards for building several of the best container homes. They've done all across the country. So shout out to them, and I'll have more information later on about that.
Yeah, we'll love to post it, their links
long
and stuff
story
like
short
that.
is container homes were definitely blew my mind. When I think of containers, of course, it's a shipping container. I'm thinking of some steel hollow thing that's just like, okay, I see it on the back of a truck, on the back of a train, whatever. And it's like, okay, what are you supposed to do with that? Listen, they're like Legos.
They
You
are.
can stack
Whatever
them,
you want.
cut them, and put them however you desire.
Yeah.
It's affordable also. So for instance, Container Home USA has a like a studio container home that's about $40,000.
Okay. And now is that
It
800
has,
square feet?
I want
400
to
square
say,
feet?
I want to say it's about 600 square feet.
Okay, somewhere in the
or
middle.
whatnot. But long story short is that they completely build out everything, kitchen, bathrooms, including all the fixtures, everything you need for $40,000.
You need to talk to
So
them.
you literally just need to buy your furniture or whatever it is that you want to, your decor.
Right.
That's it. It's easy to place. I mean, you put it on a lot. You can do a basement if you want to, but most of them are on a slab.
Yeah.
And the utilities are connected just like any other item you would have on a house. So your water is connected to the property and it's affixed to the land, usually like I said, by a slab or some type of crawl space or something. Lights, gas, water, all of that. So let's just say you're all in for $50,000, and they can be mortgaged because it is officially affixed to the land. So you can mortgage a container home.
And I feel like that's just going to be like the next wave. I think that the younger people or people who just have to kind of figure out their finances in a way that makes them be creative, this opens up a whole new wave of having something new, having something yours, having something designed the way that fits your life and functionality, updates, maybe solar panels, there's a lot of different things that people are going to start thinking outside the box because the cost of building right now is just too much, right? Oftentimes you have to even tear a house down if you can find a good place in Detroit to build one. And then, there's just a lot more.
I'm going to object to that. So rehabs or rehabbing a house is actually more than building.
Oh, I believe it.
Yeah, it's way more.
I believe it.
So at the end of the day, to be cost effective, and also if you're trying to use any type of financing, most of the time they will approve you for a new construction before they do a rehab, because they just know they'll see the project from beginning to end
Sure.
for a new construction. But yes, you're right. I mean, this is another option besides a mobile home
Yeah,
that you have, besides a brick and mortar, besides a stick build that you
exactly.
have. That's actually I consider as a new construction a little bit easier, because in this price is wrapped up all of the items that you need for your home,
Exactly.
all fixtures, even appliances.
Yeah.
So you're literally bringing your items. Plus, here in the city of Detroit, there's a lot of land. Over the last
Is that the
10
truth?
plus years, we have torn down several communities, and there's a ton of land that's available. Um, Even if you could secure a lot of land, a residential lot for $100. Okay. So from $100 to, let's just say $30,000, you can secure a nice piece of land or multiple pieces of land and build your home.
Absolutely.
But let's just say you pay $1,000 for a lot. Let's say somebody just owned it. Okay, you paid them $1,000 for it, and it's in a let's say a decent part of the city.
Okay.
Let's pick something. 6 Mile, Livernois area. It's still stuff lots over there.
Yeah,
Okay,
sure.
Fitzgerald neighborhood. Let's say it's $1,000. You have a budget of maybe 50 total, so you're $51,000 in. You're building a nice, maybe double wide container home that's affixed to the land. I mean, you can do brick facades on it if you want to make it look like it's brick. You can do siding. You can do whatever you want to do.
If I'm
But
not
for
mistaken,
under,
there's already one in
yeah,
Bagley or Fitzgerald or whatever. But anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
it may
I've seen
be.
one.
You
I
have? Okay.
think so. Yeah. Anyway, carry on.
At the end of the day, for under $80,000, I mean, you're living well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Living
I've
well.
had so many transplants lately. So if you guys are looking for options, there are options in Detroit. So as far as like building and then also like city requirements, what do you think that you're going to come up with the city? Are you going to really have issues there as far as like getting the process done and taken care of, or you think it's pretty
Listen, Container
straightforward?
Homes USA, they take care of all those with your blueprints. So for instance, for $50,000, you get your blueprints, your build out, your container, your shipping container, and delivery. So what I'm saying is that from the beginning, the city
One-stop
is
shop.
aware. Yeah, the
I
city
got
is
you.
aware of what this is going to look like, what it entails, what is needed. Once your plans are approved, you're good to go.
I like that. I like that.
It's
I have
a
to get a second
really,
house.
yeah, it's a real, listen, it's a really simple process. And again, even some of my investors I'm introducing to this process, because I'm like, hey, granted, the homes that we have are great.
There.
But sometimes the budgets, again, you're spending 30 plus another 50 and doing 80. If you could purchase 2 lots and build something, 2 of them for 100,
Yeah.
they're new builds. Hey, we can find you a great tenant that can pay, has all the certifications,
Yeah.
that can pay top dollar market
Yeah.
rate
Exactly.
or more.
Yeah.
Because now you can ask for market rate.
Yeah.
For
It's
rent.
brand new.
It's brand new.
And that's what
Never
I have
been
to
lived
say
in.
about renovations is, you've done several, I've done several, and it's just always something else. There's always something more to buy. It's always like, oh, I forgot that. Oh, like, or oh, I need this, or I don't like how to, whatever it is. Whereas this is gonna be kind of like, this is my home. Here it is. Here's everything. You get your furniture and then you move right in or whatever. So I'm actually excited about the options for people, especially people who I feel like things aren't ever done for people who are in financial hardship or struggling or just have just enough. So a lot of this show is really more so about getting started, trying to get the information before, because I know a lot of people, and I know you help a lot of people. I help a lot. We're backtracking. We're trying to fix and find out all the little mistakes they made that you don't find out until you get to closing and all this other stuff or whatever. Whereas you can start right from the beginning and have a lot more of a seamless, less difficult process instead of, oh, I can do it myself, and next thing you know, you're in trouble, and you need help. And a lot of times people don't want to help you after you've gotten that deep in, or
Yeah.
whatever. So you have to find then a good realtor, but your time is of the essence or whatever. So I definitely love it. I love where you're going. I like to actually maybe have Shipping Containers USA. Is that the name?
Yeah, Container Homes USA.
Oh, Container Homes USA. I'm sorry. I'd like to have them on, maybe. So I have to talk to you about
You
that a little bit
will.
later.
I'm gonna definitely pass along the information. This is a huge thing, like I said, and back to what your point was, community building and affordable housing. Like I said, listen, some people's dream is to be a homeowner, but their income may not necessarily, and I'm not gonna use restaurant workers or anybody as an example anymore because they make money out here. The short is that let's just say you make $80,000 a year. Okay. Really at $80,000 gross times 2.5, let's just say times 2. I mean, you can really, they'll pre people usually for a house is $160,000. But some people are like, I don't want or need $160,000 house.
Exactly.
Okay. So, and then also once you get under a certain price point, under 100 grand, it's not a lot of items
Slim
out here.
pickings. It's slim pickings.
It's slim pickings. And you're like, I can't find what I like in the area that I like. So now that gives you a different option.
It
And at
does.
the end of the day,
It does.
even if you're making $30,000 a year, you have, I just want people to know that they have options.
Yes, you
Okay.
do.
Besides getting an apartment, besides finding, buying a traditional home, you can be a homeowner in mobile or container or both.
Yeah, and even if it's just a start, or whatever, and so you can figure it out. You ain't with your mama, you ain't with your daddy. You're not. You have your own space, and that's important.
I swear to God, Eric, if I would have known about this years ago when we used to get those tax refund checks from college and stuff, instead of renting an apartment, I would have bought me a mobile home. Like,
right, so many different options. Remember, we went to Cass. There was the lot when nobody wanted it. It was $1 right across the parking lot. $1 right behind Little Caesars Arena, which is now worth millions or whatever. And so if we just would have knew, we would have done different. So if you're young and you're trying to figure it out, or even if you're old or whatever, there are new options. You just have to kind of think outside the box and know who to contact.
Listen, baby boomers are one of the biggest markets right now, only because they're retiring and they need their money to last a long time.
Exactly.
So a lot of them are selling a big, huge, or the family homes that they have, and they're downsizing, but they don't want to go to an apartment. They still want to own something. So again, a mobile home is a great, almost not even maintenance free, but less maintenance, but it's not an apartment, but it's not a co-op. Like, listen, our mobile home, we pay an extra $50 a month. We get our grass cut, we get the snow removed.
It's reasonable.
They take care of the ground. So at the end of the day, it's still affordable.
It's affordable.
Again, you don't want to maybe live in a high rise or live in an apartment or even live in a mobile home park, depending upon what your opinion is. Container homes, you can have one built.
Right. Exactly.
It's still affordable. You can still get it. You can get it financed, and it's something that's affordable at $50,000. Let's just take it at 80,000. Let's say you're at $80,000 for 30 years.
Very affordable,
including tax and insurance. You're still at probably, let's say, on the high end, $750 a month, including taxes and insurance.
And that's so hard to find these days. And I like to, my particular word for when I'm describing the market in Detroit is it's tricky, like, so you might be at a certain price point, like say for instance, University District, most of the homes, 250, 275, 300, 400, right? And then if you're looking for something at 70, 80,000, you're probably looking in a very particular neighborhood for a very particular reason. And not that the houses aren't nice and can't do what you need them to do, but oftentimes there are other factors like location, aesthetics, crime, whatever it may be. Whereas, so it becomes hard to find a place in the middle that you feel comfortable living in. So a lot of people are forced into the suburbs, especially when they don't really have time to decide. You've got kids that want to go to a good school and all this other different stuff that kind of comes into it or whatever. So it just kind of immediately is like, well, I guess we got to look otherwise or otherwhere.
So that was a great thing that I also usually bring up too, which is education, car insurance, bills in general. Maintenance. Cost. Having a larger home, a brick and mortar home, or just a large residential home, you have a lot more costs. These utilities. Utilities. These are either new builds or smaller spaces, so you're not spending as much on utilities with mobile homes and container homes. You get the perks of your child being in a school district you may want them to be in. And every city has a mobile home park or two.
Hmm.
It's required that they have at least one.
Hmm.
So
I didn't know that.
yeah,
So
everyone.
where's the one in
West
Detroit? Is there
Bloomfield
one in
has
Detroit?
one, Birmingham has, everybody has one,
Okay.
or it's adjacent.
Mm.
But most of them have at least one somewhere. You may not even notice it because some sit far back, some of them are tucked away, depending upon how it's built.
Of course. Yeah, you know why. So is there one in Detroit?
There's several in Detroit.
Okay.
Yeah.
See,
Yep.
live here your whole life, don't even know none.
Right. I didn't either. Like
Gotcha. Okay, well, moving on. So what would you recommend to anyone trying to get into property management in Detroit specifically? Do you have anything that comes to mind when I ask that question?
absolutely. First of all, you have to be a licensed broker.
Here we go.
Okay.
You're
So
the first person to say that.
listen. State law is that if you do anything for anybody for a fee,
Mhm.
you need to, if in real estate, you have to have a license. You have to have a broker's license. So to have a property management company, you are required to have a broker's license in real estate. Okay. Do a lot of people do it without it? Absolutely. Are they successful at it?
course.
Absolutely. So that's what I always put as that's the number one thing.
Mm.
That's what protects you.
Mm.
Right.
It
That's
is.
number one. As an investor, that's what protects you as well, because you have some sort of recourse. We don't take all these continuing education hours and designation classes and spend the money that we have in order to try to screw you over. Those that may or have or do, all right, it's an exception to every case, but majority of people won't. Okay.
Absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely.
what I really want to say is that you have to have money for this business. Okay. This is not a business where you come in thinking that you're going to make tons of money
Mm.
all at once.
Mm-mm.
You have to have money for this
Yeah.
business, for
Yeah.
property management. Because
Mhm.
here's the thing, you have owners that you're managing for, they're trying to get the money from wherever if the tenant hasn't paid.
Mhm.
And you still have to make sure that things get done.
Mhm.
So for instance, if there is a plumbing issue and it's running water and you have to get somebody out there, you're
Immediately.
gonna have to pay them. And they're not looking to get paid
60
when the
days
owner
later.
decides that they want to pay you
Right.
or whatever. And the tenant wants it done like now. So that's an
Absolutely.
emergency situation.
Mhm.
You have to have the funds to cover those things until you can get reimbursed by your owner.
Exactly.
So don't think, hey, I'm gonna come out here and be a property manager and I'm gonna use the money that the tenant pays and give that to the owner, take my fee, and then there's nothing left over.
Mm.
That's not a great plan.
Mm.
Because
No.
we're dealing with people, we're dealing with homes, people are living here. There's always some type of expense, always.
Mm.
Make sure that you have reserve funds to run your company. Keep
Mm.
your phone on, keep your lights on,
Mm.
keep the office bills paid, as well as your personal.
Yeah.
I mean, you're investing your entire being into this business.
Mm.
Second thing is this is not a part-time gig.
No, it's almost a 24-hour, 7 day a
It's
week gig.
almost a 20, it is a 24 hour, 7 days a week.
Mm. It
Okay.
is.
If you're gonna be a property manager, run a property management firm, anything like that, you have no days off.
No, you don't.
Okay. You get moments where
Mm.
it's just quiet.
Yeah. And then those are weird because you're not used to it being quiet. And so you're like constantly like, what can I do? What can I do?
Right.
Like,
Constantly trying to figure
gotta.
this out, which one you use this opportunity at that time to kind of
Mhm.
see if you can be proactive. We
Exactly.
we have meetings and we're trying to be proactive.
Mm.
Have we checked the furnace filters in all
Mhm.
of the properties? Have winters here, has the thermostats been checked? Um, just trying to be proactive as much as possible, going through each property and seeing if there was something that the tenant might have mentioned months ago that we didn't really pay attention to or adhere to at that time. Do we need to revisit it again? Follow-ups, all of those things. So your downtime is used to follow up with tenants and make sure that this property is safe, and drive-bys,
Mm.
just to make sure that the house is still occupied, that it's still standing.
Yeah.
So what I tell people is, number one, you need to have resources, reserves,
Mm.
money.
Mm.
Uh, really number one, you need to be a licensed broker. But if you're not, that's number one for you. And number two, that is a full-time business. I meet a lot of people who hire property managers who are unlicensed and property managers who were licensed that they were doing this part-time.
Yeah.
They did it when they had free time or when they were not, their license, when they were not selling homes or showing homes, and they're trying to do all this at the same time.
Absolutely.
Not going to work.
Absolutely. And that was one thing, that was a big thing when I was really doing property management, 736 apartments and, 288, whatever it may be. Our biggest focus was always maintenance. It's preventative maintenance.
That's
Like you
right.
said, furnace filters, doing everything to make sure that we can mitigate as many problems as possible. They're gonna happen when you have 700 people, and this has changed a little bit because people used to really be at work from 9 to 5, 9 to 6, and so you would get the calls at hours that were undesirable to you, but most people are then coming home at these hours and finding issues and problems, and that's when that phone starts ringing. And so that was always hard. I even did maintenance for a while, and I remember my first time being on call, I was like, oh no,
Yeah.
this is not for me. 3 a.m. I like to sleep.
Yeah.
3 a.m. my phone's ringing. I didn't even know what I was doing, so I was just like, oh man, okay. So I don't know, I did about another month or two, but it was not for me or whatever. So property management is a very, very, very temperamental
It
thing,
is
and it's
very
just for
temperamental.
certain people. Some certain people are really good with it. And one thing I have noticed that you have done over the time, and I'm very proud of you, by the way, because I've watched you build and build and build, but you built a team, right? So what does a good team consist of to you, and what do you recommend for anyone who's looking in to get into the industry and build a team? Like, where should they start? Who should they be calling? What should they be looking for? What do you think they need to be successful, or at least start growing into being successful or scaling?
Okay. So again, like you just said, maintenance is a huge thing. You have to have an awesome maintenance team.
Yes.
And I built an awesome maintenance team.
Mm.
All are skilled. Like, first of all, the core of the house, the HVAC, the plumbing, the electrical, all
Mhm.
licensed contractors.
Mhm.
They're all
Insured.
licensed, journeyman, whatever you want to go in that field. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Those things I don't play with. I can't hire anybody that's not licensed, number one, because it's a safety issue.
Oh yeah.
I need some type of recourse. My owners are going to want recourse from me, and I'm going to want recourse from those people.
Oh yeah.
A great maintenance manager.
Mm.
That is one of the things that I have been working on the last years or so, couple of years or so, is a maintenance manager. Somebody to take those actual calls and spring into action. That is all they do,
Mhm.
is that they will take those calls, receive those service orders, those work orders, and they're not managing the people, they're managing the technicians, they're managing the problems. Okay, so
Mhm.
that's great. But
Mhm.
if you can't find a maintenance tech full time and you are doing it yourself, building a great team of contractors for at
Mhm.
least those three things: your HVAC, your plumbing, and your electrical.
Yep.
And then other things, nice handyman, painters, people who can
Yes.
do miscellaneous things like that, painting a
Exactly.
wall or changing out. But yeah,
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And so I guess,
and you need for them to kind of work on either a net. You really want a net 30, but if
yeah.
you can get like a net 14 or a net 7, and most people are like, well, what is that? Listen, they'll do the work for you and give you net 7 days to pay them,
Yeah.
or net 14 days to
Yeah.
pay them. Or if they're a larger company, they may award you a
And
net
that 30.
30,
Yeah.
which they'll give you 30 days from the date that the work is completed for you to pay their invoice.
Exactly.
If you can find people who can afford you those options, those are probably some of the best people that's going to be on your team. And
Exactly.
I built those relationships.
Mhm.
Okay. So
And
it's all about
sometimes,
building the relationships.
exactly.
Sometimes you start off paying them that day, and then you may say, hey,
Exactly. They get to
they
know
see,
you, and eventually they trust you well enough to
and they
say,
see
well,
how
okay,
much
don't worry about
volume
it.
of work that you have for
Exactly.
them. They're like, okay,
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly. No, I totally agree with that. I would say, to kind of like expound on that, as far as what I've felt was really good for a team, definitely again, maintenance supervisor, so that you could easily just contact one person and they can kind of take care of all of that and report back to you. Accountants, things of that nature are always going to be,
yeah,
you want to be able to like free yourself and ask people questions and get answers, and then they can kind of tell you what's going on rather than you're literally inside of it the whole time trying to figure out what's going on in this world when whirlwind of problems and everything like that.
Correct.
So team is most important. If you think leasing, that's like 10-20% of getting the whole thing done, right? Like if you're treating your maintenance people like shit and you don't think much of them, then you're wrong, because they are everything. They are the reason that your property works, especially if you have a larger property. So customer service is also a good thing too, because a lot of
That's a
maintenance people
great
don't
thing.
do so well with communicating.
Listen, I didn't even mention that, and you're absolutely right.
Yes.
Okay.
Keep your
And I'm
clients
gonna
happy.
expound on that. Customer service is key. Listen,
Yes.
in the city of Detroit, we are working with a lot of different people, and you have to maintain your professionalism.
Absolutely.
Definitely, people will take you out of your element or try to. You have to stay on your square.
Yeah,
And
you do.
customer service is what you have to kind of put yourself in, you have to put yourself in their shoes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Everybody wants to be comfortable.
Especially at home.
Correct, especially at home. So you have to make sure that customer service is key. And I get people that call me all kind of names, and it's okay. And I tell them, I understand your frustration, and believe me, I'm working as fast as I can to get whatever it is completed. But again, you have to have customer service. If you don't, it will lead you in court.
Oh yeah.
It will lead you to
Absolutely.
lawsuits. It will lead you everywhere. You have to make sure that you have great customer service on both ends with owners and tenants.
And that you demonstrated that you've
everyone
done these things, a paper trail or whatever, so that people aren't saying, oh, he did it, like demonstrate that you provided the best customer service that you could the whole time.
Absolutely.
And while figuring out the problem. That is a really good thing. So,
correct.
All right. So battery's getting low on my camera, so I am going to move ahead a little bit. So a quick word from our sponsors. Is work or real estate getting you down? Are you feeling burned out or depressed? Well, there's a solution you can use right from the comfort and privacy of your own home computer. Center for Establishing Recovery is Metro Detroit's leading provider for e-therapy. If you're in need of a listening ear, contact Center for Establishing Recovery at establishingrecovery.com. Again, Center for Establishing Recovery at establishingrecovery.com. All right, Marcus. Well, it's been great. I think I have a little bit of time. We'll see how far we get. I got to hear your craziest Detroit story or your craziest Detroit real estate story, and then we'll go ahead and do our outro.
Ooh, craziest. All right. So as we already know, this is crazy real estate story. As we know that marijuana is legal. I'm not gonna get into the legality of it, but long story short, I had a tenant called me, and they expressed to me very politely that some of their marijuana was missing. Now, I held the phone and they were just like, hello. And I'm like, yes. I was like, you have to give me a moment. Now, I've been doing this for 15, 16 years, been in property management around, say about 3, I'm gonna say, really. I didn't even know where to go with this. It was the craziest. First of all, I never had anybody the audacity to call me and tell me that their marijuana had
tree was gone.
Yeah, gone or stolen. The first part of me wanted to say, okay, forgive me. Did you smoke it and don't remember? I mean, it happened. The long story short is that I had to take it serious and I had to figure it out. But it was crazy because, again, I never had anybody call me about this. Okay. So I told the tenant, I said, let me call you back because I need to do some research. So I called my insurance agent. I called other brokers that I know of, like that are in property management or have been, like, hey, how do I deal with this situation? And they're just like, I can't tell you. I mean, it was the crazy, and it took me about 2 days really to kind of piece together what should be done. So this particular tenant did have a marijuana card, so it was legal. It wasn't something I don't know if they bought off the street or not, but they had a card so they could possess it. It was confirmed that it was stolen. Unfortunately, it was a contractor that put their sticky hands on it. So I had to call the tenant back in. First of all, I had to ask them. I said, well, just like anything of value, when work is being conducted at a property, make sure that all your valuables are put up. And of course, the response was, I don't feel like I should have to do that. This is my house. And I agree with you. But just like even if it is your space, you should be able to do that. And I
Sure.
think I lost it.
No, it's fine. You can still, as long as you
Okay.
can still hear me, we'll go ahead and finish. But the
But at
camera
the end
may
of the day,
cut
I'm
out.
gonna make it quick. The solution was that the tenant had to file a police report
Really?
because it was stolen property.
Yeah.
And once the police report has been filed, then that's when we can take action
Okay.
in order to do an have an investigation done and et cetera. And I'm still trying to figure out how I would be able to file that as a claim on the insurance.
That's hard.
It is hard because it wasn't necessarily anything you kind of get as far as a model number, make, model, and things of that nature.
No, sure.
The solution was that, but unfortunately, the tenant did not follow through with filing a police report on it. But that's what had to be done, was that a police report had to be filed. It is of value, so we had to put an approximate value, and then it would have to go from there for us to actually really kind of take it extremely serious. It was already a serious offense because it was theft, but at the end of the day, we had to have a police report. But that was my craziest thing. I tell that all the time. I never, I don't know anybody who had the audacity to call and say, hey, X amount of grams of my weed has been taken. So yeah, that's my craziest one. Like,
that's an interesting one. I love hearing the stories because everybody's got one at least, if not 12.
That was it. I mean, I was literally on the phone quiet, like, where do I go from here? Like,
I don't know what to do with this one, buddy.
Right, I didn't. And you have to be careful. Again, it's about customer service.
Exactly.
You can't say, well, did you smoke it? Well, did you lose it? Are you sure? Because you was probably high. Like, that's not customer service. That could have went
right. I thought really
bad.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
Gotcha. You have to maintain customer service and decorum and poise and really, again, put yourself in that person's shoes, and that is money that they paid out for it. So it does have a value, but yeah, you just kind of gotta compose yourself before the words come spilling out of your mouth.
Oh man, tell me about it. I've gotten really good at that, actually.
Yeah, me too. That's why I take a pause. I'll be like, okay, you pause. And then go forth.
Well, everyone, thank you for listening to the Brick and Mortar Detroit podcast, where we discuss business, real estate, lifestyle, and travel. I'm your host, Eric Andrews, founder and owner of Brick and Mortar Detroit Real Estate Brokerage. 16 years in the industry, experience in multiple full-scale renovation, high-end luxury property management, customer service relations, new construction, and previous director of 55 West Canfield Lofts, 2016 certified apartment manager, and Airbnb superhost. I started this podcast for boots on the ground insights for Detroit from not just one, but as many professionals that I could find. Marcus, any last words, any featured listings or any information you'd like to put out there for everyone?
At the time, my team and I host a Detroit real estate weekend. It will be July the 28th, 2022 to July the 31st, 2022. The event is called Detroit Real Estate Weekend, and it is on Eventbrite, and tickets will be available. It's an entire weekend where we do a tour of Detroit, and we also host a gala and a mastermind for those who are interested in knowing more about and investing in the city of Detroit. Awesome. This is actually it'll be our fourth annual Detroit real estate tour that we do every year. Awesome.
Well, I'll definitely make sure you send me all the links and everything like that, and I'll make sure to post it on my website under your episode.
Okay.
All right. Well, pleasure. Thank you so much for listening. And Marcus, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it.
Appreciate you. Have a good day.
Brick and Mortar Detroit podcasts and newsletters reflect the opinions of only the authors who are associated guests of podcasts and do not reflect the views of Brick and Mortar Detroit LLC or any of its subsidiaries or affiliates. They are for informational purposes only and are not a recommendation of an investment strategy or to buy or sell any home, security, or asset in any market. They are also not research reports and are not intended to serve as the basis for any investment decision. Any third-party information provided therein does not reflect the views of Brick and Mortar Detroit LLC or any of their subsidiaries or affiliates. All investments involve risk, including the loss of money, principal, and past market performance does not guarantee future results. We always recommend you enlist a professional entity for any investment decision you may be considering.